Welcome to the Data Career Podcast. Here's your host, Avery Smith.
Hey everyone, what's up? What's today? Happy Friday. Almost the end of the week. I'm gonna move my mic a little bit closer so you can hear me a little bit better. Stoked to be with you this Friday afternoon. We have an awesome guest. Super excited about it. Basically a celebrity, at least if you're on TikTok, on data TikTok, which maybe is a little niche.
I like that.
But we have, I'm going to pull him up here. There we go. We have Michael, and I'm going to say his name wrong again, his last name, DiBenigno. How do you say it one more time?
DiBenigno.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Is that like
Very
Italian or something?
It is, yes.
Very cool last name.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
So anyways, Michael's really awesome. I have this quick bio for him. Michael is the head of business at Flow Immersive, which is a revolutionary AR immersive data visualization and storytelling platform. Like I said, he's also TikTok famous for his awesome short clips on explaining data analysis stories in 3D augmented reality. He has a bachelor's degree from Vanderbilt and then an MBA from MIT, so that's pretty sweet. He's been a consultant at Deloitte, helping companies to use tech to drive value in the past. And he's even led a team to teach a robot to paint. So Michael, welcome to the Data Career Podcast.
Avery, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's super good to be with you. If you guys haven't seen Michael's videos or seen Flow Immersive yet, you'll have the chance to today, from what I understand. We'll have a little bit of a demo. But yeah, first, let's start there. Tell us about Flow Immersive. What exactly is it? And for those who haven't seen it, maybe we can take a look at it.
Yeah, I'll go through just like a quick overview here of what Flow is, but at a very high level, what we believe is that more data is not going to change the world, but more effectively communicating with the data that we have is how we start to push society forward. And so that's true both in the enterprise, but also, in the public domain. I think climate change is sort of a perfect example of that. Adding more data into the climate change repository, probably not going to change things very much, but if we can more effectively communicate to leaders, to influencers with that information and the insight of what to do next, that's how we start to push things forward. And so we see this divide in the world, essentially, where there's a lot of data and we sort of assume that decisions are just going to happen, but decisions are still made by people and they're still convinced and informed by data. And so that's really what we're trying to empower. And we see that as sort of the major gap. And so, yeah, I can go through a little bit more here through the screen share. Ultimately, what I'm showing you is Flow. So the idea, you can see my face, you can see that the content at the same time. And this also works into AR and VR and all of the extended technologies. So ultimately what we're solving for are sort of three fundamental data communication problems. One is levels of engagement in a meeting. Is your audience actually paying attention, or are they on their phone doing something else? Two is levels of understanding. Do they really understand these mental models that you're trying to convey when it has some complexity? And then three is levels of interaction. Typically calls and like this, it's sort of one to many. I'm presenting out, but to actually enable people to interact with the content during the meeting, that's how you start to bring people along. And so by solving for these things, we essentially can help drive better data-driven decisions, and in a sales use case, more sales conversions. And so ultimately, it's through data storytelling that we do this. And so data storytelling fills this niche, which is the adding a narrative onto data visualization. So if you think of like PowerPoint as sort of a narrative version, and then we can think of Tableau as sort of like the data visualization, it's basically a merging of those two together to add the empathy layer of the narrative with the visualization layer, which is more of the logical side. So it's those two things combined which drive data storytelling. And so that's really what we are. We're a data storytelling platform at the end of the day. And so the response on TikTok's been amazing. And just to illustrate here and maybe get you involved here, this was a map back in 2016 that Donald Trump would say like the whole country voted red. And you can see the distribution. This is a county by county level election results from 2020. And the counter for that was that, land doesn't vote, people vote. And so if we adjust the size of these bars based on the number of votes cast, we see a very different story emerge. And so what I'm going to do, I think this is going to be fun, Avery, I'm going to actually have you join. I didn't prompt you beforehand, but I just put a link into the chat window. And I'm not sure if anyone's on live, but if you actually want to join on your cell phone, if you open the camera of your phone and point it to that QR code, you can actually join this session live.
Oh, that is cool.
Be in here. And I'll actually join on my phone too, just so you can see a bit of what this looks like.
Yeah, so if you're watching, go ahead and use your phone. Hopefully you're on a computer and you have your phone available, and scan that QR code, and let's see what happens. I'm joining via the special link that Michael sent me.
Love it. Yeah, so let me
select my username. Okay, Avery.
All right, so cool. I'm starting to see some people join, or I see two people. So we got John on a phone and then Avery. There you are. So this idea that we're in the same scene and part of the same multi-user meeting, this is starting to hint towards where we're leaning towards, right? So you're seeing all the augmented reality type stuff that we post online, but a majority of our customers today really use sort of more the flat screen version. So being practical today is really important to us. And so this idea that you can interact with the data, I'm not sure if you're still in the scene, but if you can click on data points to pull up additional information. And this idea that we can sort of see each other in the scene, is empowering to someone that doesn't necessarily have deep understanding or expertise on the data, that they can literally just point to something and ask about it, is a very empowering thing. So that's sort of hinting towards what we're building towards, and some of the interaction models that you might not see on sort of the posts that we some of the posts I put on TikTok and things like that. But yeah, I would love to get your take and questions that you have from this.
Okay, I had to put my camera back on the stream because I am blown away. This is really cool. This is insane, guys, for everyone who's not in there.
Oh, still there?
I clicked the wrong button. I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Uh-huh.
Okay, sorry everyone.
Okay.
I clicked the wrong button. This is really cool. Like this is crazy, where it's like I can see where your mouse is going and what you're looking at inside of the data, full screen. And like there can be multiple people there. And even when you were just presenting, just the fact that you have like the data behind you and your face there, that's like, I mean, PowerPoint should have that. Any sort of presentation tool should have that. But to have that with data, I think is really interesting, because it also becomes, I mean, this is what you said earlier, you're combining something like Tableau and PowerPoints together, but it also becomes a point where it's like, oh, I can actually do analysis with the person in the room. Like, it's not like a static graph. If they have a question, we can go and answer it.
Yeah, it's a bit exploratory. You can explore the content together and find some of those insights. I do think the majority of the use cases we're really seeing today, it's more directed, where it's a story that someone has planned already that they're presenting upwards to executives or outwards to a larger audience. But we definitely have other features that we're pushing that are a little bit more exploratory, that allow sort of that exploration of data during the meeting. So yeah, I'm sort of giving you a lot of like little pieces that you probably didn't see online, because I think that the AR aspect is really cool. There's a cool aspect to it. And my business partner, has this great quote when he talks about cool. He says, cool is like a technical term, and it means mastery and control. So if you think about like a cool skateboard trick or BMW, it's about feeling that sense of control and confidence and mastery over something. And so when you're in AR and you're actually moving around and you feel this mastery of the content around you, it's sort of, the name flow is actually about, being in the state of flow. You're sort of in this altered state where your mental capacity is peaked. And yeah, so that's sort of a little bit more of the ethos of what we're after in some sense. So yeah, anyways, I think I always think it's funny that he tries to codify cool as a technical term, but I think there is some truth to it in terms of what we're really trying to enable and trying to decipher what people really mean when they see the the cool AR visualizations and why it clicks with them. I think our mental models are 3D in nature, and we sort of have forced ourselves to think in 2 dimensions. And when you reactivate it, it really does codify in your mind in a very different way. I guarantee this map that I'm showing you here, that that visual is going to stick with you in an interesting way, where your understanding of the globe and your understanding of the information, it sticks in a very different way. And especially when it's in AR, VR, where it's actually in the room with you, is pretty powerful. So yeah, anyways, I'll stop there. And there's lots of other visualizations we can go through. I've no shortage of visualizations we could talk through, which could be fun.
Well, I think it's fascinating because, we have been stuck. One of my heroes is Edward Tufte. He's kind of the godfather of data visualization.
Yes.
I don't have his new book, but I have his 4 other books sitting right there on my shelf. And he has this, this term that he talks about called Flatland. And that's what we're stuck in when we've done data visualization. And he's talking about 2 dimensions. And he's a big fan, or I guess what's the opposite of a fan? He's not a big fan of 3D data visualizations because they often are very confusing and they don't add anything really.
Right.
But that's 3D being projected onto 2D, like a piece of paper or a monitor. But what you're doing with Flow Immersive is you're making a comeback for 3D plots.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very controversial topic. So it's almost, I find that the more people are ingrained in sort of traditional data viz, the more immediate the reaction of like, oh, I don't want that. I don't want that. But what's interesting is, especially when you're in AR, VR, and the tech is essentially 3 dimensions already, by looking at 2D content in a 3D environment, it sort of defeats the purpose in some sense. It actually feels way more intuitive when it's all around you in a 3D sense. But I do agree that, presenting things onto a flat screen like this, like what I'm doing here and what a majority of, our customers typically do, doing 3D just for the sake of 3D is not valuable. Geospatial is a very easy one to understand in terms of the value add you can do here. But I think there's other elements to like storytelling. One is like looking at, like, this is a network graph of a reproduction value for COVID. And this is sort of the mathematical model of how disease propagates. And anyways, I can go further on this topic, but this idea that, what are you gaining from the 3rd dimension? And I think it's an element to allowing more space. So you have literally more space to put things, but there's also elements of storytelling. The idea that you can animate things over time, that you can move the camera, all of these elements play together. So it's not just the 3D that we're doing. It's really that in combination with all these different storytelling mechanics that really bring the story to life. So I think of it that way, as opposed to the 3D is the only thing we're adding. I think 3D adds value in many cases, but there are definitely instances where 2D visualization is actually preferred. And I think that is fine. And it's a little bit more about some of the storytelling techniques that also play a big role in there.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true, because data visualization and communication and storytelling go hand in hand. And I'm glad that you showed me. So, I mean, for everyone who didn't know, I found Michael through his TikToks, and his TikToks most of the time are like augmented reality, 3D, walking in data. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. But one of the questions is like, okay, when would I use that? Like, when do I want to walk through the data? I do agree that network charts, I think, are a good example. I think when you're doing some sort of dimensionality reduction, like PCA or any sort of clustering, I could see myself using it.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that Flow had this other component of like the PowerPoint style, like more fluid storytelling. That's another thing that Tufte talks about, is he talks about his disdain for PowerPoint. And how it's not effective. And I just think Flow seems like a really good solution for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. And I totally agree. And, one element here, let me just show one example of,
yes, please do.
Something where there's sort of like a 3D element to it. And, where it adds value. So here what we're looking at is total capacity. So
hold on one second. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just want to tell you, I was in Texas. I lived in Texas when this happened. This hits close to home. Yeah, it was. Okay. We were like 3 days without power. It was miserable. So sorry, keep going. Just had to throw that in.
I feel like the story just passed a bit, and I'm still anyways, I still think there's so much more to talk about, but one of the things, and this is more on just like the elements of like the 3D nature, you know, what we can do here is build a graph that is showing the component parts of the whole, and being able to show it stepwise like this. Now, normally you could put this all together or show it as a stacked bar chart. Stacked bar charts don't quite hold up as well when you want to look at individual contributions.
Yeah.
And so, you know, this is sort of a somewhat of a unique view, and I can show you lots of others that really are unique in the 3D space that we're always experimenting with. But in many regards, it's sort of an open territory where we really haven't focused that much on what this can enable. But you know, this is just one example of seeing the breakdown. In this case, the breakdown of power generation and the different component parts of it, and then how each of those have either increased or decreased over time, or not over time, but within this time period during the power outage. So obviously, I'm not telling the whole story here. There's a lot more to it that I think is really, really interesting and valuable.
Are you clicking a button, or how is it transitioning?
Yeah, I'm clicking the next button, which is just down here.
And it has that nice gradual flow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's always animations between steps. Cool. I can actually show you how we build these, because one of the big things we've been really pushing hard on, and why I'm not posting videos as often is because we're really working on the product and the tool to allow anyone to build these themselves. And so that's been a huge undertaking, and we're really excited by the response. You know, we have a wait list of people wanting to get into the platform. And so we're going to be starting bringing a few private beta users in July 6th. And then from there in a few months, planning mid-September, sort of a larger public release. But we're really excited to see where people can start to take the platform and the different stories that this starts to enable. You know, I think my goal is not for me to be sort of the only, you know, data guy on TikTok, but to see a lot of people starting to post this type of content and starting to engage with data as sort of a core elements. So that's the ultimate dream, is where there's lots of data guys and gals and everyone doing you know, visualizations and really having conversations around data. And I think it's, in some sense, COVID was actually sort of a huge catalyst for data visualization. You know, there's not too many times in our life where, you know, the president's like just holding up, you know, pieces of paper with data visualizations on them, and even if he was interpreting them in different ways, just this idea that it was part of our consciousness, because we wanted to know what was going on, and we realized that the data was the way to understand what was actually going on versus sort of the anecdotal, you know, stories that you'd hear. I think sort of the antidote's dead in some sense, and the data is there to help you fill in sort of the larger picture.
Can you imagine seeing a president in one of those, like just like you just did, like presenting with data behind them and showing them? Yeah. That would be cool. I guess that's the next step for Flow, huh?
Yeah, you know, one of our biggest customers is the United Nations. Wow. So we actually our software was used last year for the General Assembly for a portion of it, which was really amazing. I mean, it was just an incredible moment. Very stressful, but very, very important to be able to be part of that. So, you know, it's so definitely applicable there, without a doubt. So. Yeah.
And where can people go to learn more? Is it flowimmersive.com? Is that the best place to go?
That is the best place to go. Yes. So you'll see a sign up list there for the wait list, see videos, and you can actually interact with all of these flows. They're public on our website. So you can actually go there and interact with them. You can actually even host a meeting with them. So you could actually do exactly what I did, where you host a meeting and go through it. Most of them have just like an invite button on the lower left-hand side, and that's how you essentially start one of these visualizations. So I'm trying to think where to go here. Part of me wants to show you this experimental one I built that I don't think people have really seen, or I haven't published it really. So let me bring it up. I think it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, let's look at it.
Just a sec to find it again.
Yeah, I want early access, Michael. I'll do what I need to.
Yeah.
Let me know what I need to, because it seems pretty sweet.
Thanks. Let's see.
I could almost see this being as revolutionary as like Tableau, just because I mean, when Tableau came out, it just gave data visualization powers. I don't know if, and also I guess I shouldn't say Tableau. I should just say drag and drop graph making. That's not basically Excel. Just easy graph making. Just because I think what Tableau did for dashboards, and mostly dashboards, because most people don't even do standard or just standalone data visualization on Tableau. I think you guys could do for data stories, because it definitely has, and I'm going to use the title again, definitely has more flow than Tableau. Tableau, if you want to change the narrative or change the story, you're clicking down onto like a new tab, and it's a hard change. But you guys have that soft transition. Anyways, I think it could be really cool.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And I think they, in some sense, they pioneered not pioneered, but they exemplified this idea of more data analysis. And I think of it more in terms of exploration and analysis. You build these dashboards which people can go in and explore and find insights. But what we found is that there's a missing component there. People publish dashboards, and then the person that actually wanted the dashboard realizes they didn't actually want a dashboard. What they wanted was someone to give them the answer.
Yeah.
They
the commentary,
the analysis, and then present back to them, not a dashboard. So I think in some sense, dashboards actually have sort of proven out to be not ideal forms of communication. They're great for analysis, and if you're operational and doing something every day, totally. But if you need to present insights or tell a story, sending someone a dashboard and hoping they figure it out themselves, I mean, it's sort of like good luck. And I think the other thing is I ran into this way often in the consulting world, was copying and pasting screenshots of Tableau, pasting it into PowerPoint, and then circling and adding annotations. And it just feels very like there's got to be a better way, right? And that's I think a huge element to it. So I'm glad you're sort of seeing that component, because I think the analysis portion is hugely valuable. And I think that the missing element was really the storytelling component, and that's that gap that we're hoping to fill. So yeah, that's really cool. You have a codified idea of it. So I'm going to show you this real quick. Let's see. Okay.
We did have a comment that I like. It's like Tableau with flow. It rhymes even.
I like that. That's pretty good. Yeah. Okay. So what we're looking at here is a 24-hour clock. So just focus on the circle at first here. And so you'll see this is midnight. This is noon. So we're going around the clock. So basically, you can think of this as almost like a time passing as it goes by, that we're seeing time pass. And so the other axis here is number of days. So this is a 7-week period, and I had my first child here early January, and so we tracked all of the bottle feeds, diaper changes, breastfeeding sessions, and graphed it. And so when you look at it like this, I feel like I don't know. I've never seen one. I was experimenting with this idea of using polar coordinates, but also having some animation. And it reminds me of the, those little toy boxes with like a ballerina, or like little music boxes with the piano player. It sort of reminds me of that. But the big difference is that this is, chronological over time, but you can really sort of see the, I guess in some sense, the never-ending onslaught of baby management during the day with brief periods of sleep here. And this is the yellow is when I started to intervene here and allowed my partner to get more sleep. But anyways, I just wanted to share that because I haven't shown this.
That's cool
for the rotating this view, but I feel like there's anyways. That's what I mean when I say it's a very untapped space in terms of the potential to tell stories. And while I think there's things I could improve on this exponentially, that I feel like this is starting to, at least in my mind, it allows you to interpret and see insights in a different way and communicate those insights in a new way. And if anything, testament to that is not me, but more like TikTok and seeing people's response to these videos, because it seems like things are clicking in a different way. Whereas if I just posted a presentation online, or images of data visualizations, it doesn't have that same impact. And so that's really what we're about.
Well, I think that was awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
It's actually cool. I had so I run an analytics firm as well, and one of my first projects in my analytics firm was to visualize baby data.
No way.
Yeah. And so I wish, I definitely did not make that type of graph. I'll tell you that much. But that was really cool. Thank you for showing that.
Of course.
I know you got to get out of here in a little bit. I did want to ask you just a quick question. So this is the Data Career Podcast. We talk about data. Another thing we talk about is careers. So I think we learned a lot about Flow Immersive. If you're watching, definitely check out Flow Immersive, especially in a business standpoint. But just talk a little bit more about you, and I guess specifically the TikTok, which is interesting. Is why? Tell me about the first time you posted on TikTok one of these videos. Why did you do it?
A little bit just experimental. I think like everyone sort of like was fascinated with TikTok in the beginning, and I loved it. I just think it's an amazing platform because it gives people the chance to break out, whereas other platforms are very dependent on your following. Yeah. Like, Twitter, and it's like if you don't have an established following that you've been building over years, if you post something and it's great, sort of the world doesn't matter or doesn't care too much. Whereas TikTok's algorithm really prioritizes content. High quality content has the potential to go viral, and there's not too many platforms that really allow that anymore. So I think that's one component, but the interaction, there's so many fascinating things, and I feel like the most creative things I've ever seen in my life seem to always come from this app, and that's crazy, right? I mean, I feel like I'm learning more from this TikTok app than I, did through all this professional schooling sometimes. And, it's just, I think it's an amazing thing. And I think the more we embrace these new technologies and how we communicate, the better. So I'm always one that embraces and tries new things. And I was really shocked to see a big response on, one of my AR videos. And, I was building that one I posted that I think it was Andrew Yang one. That was the first one that went a little viral. I had built that like a year before, and
oh wow.
And not really, I posted it on Twitter and a few other places, it's just some things like that. But, just the response on TikTok was really amazing. And I think part of it is the platform itself. But it's been fun to lean into it and just try to keep posting more and build that community. But I'm most excited for really getting more people in and seeing other creators start to build data visualizations and, more importantly, data stories that are important to them.
Yeah, for sure. That'll be so cool.
Yeah.
Did I hear you say that you've learned more from TikTok than some of your education, including MIT? You went to MIT, Michael. Do you learn more from TikTok than MIT? Just say yes or no.
I can't answer that, unfortunately. No. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely different, but I feel like it's very different, but yeah, I mean, on the career side of things, just to segue more into that, I feel like I'm in some sense almost part of the last generation to really emphasize schooling credentials, which I'm hopeful of, especially because I just had a kid, and I'm hoping that by the time she gets to college, it's not as much of like do you have this rubber stamp of approval having gone to like to a really top school. And essentially, I think that's more of what it's become. It's become social proof of like, oh, you have the capabilities. And I think more so, especially in tech, it's way more about what have you delivered and what can you deliver. And if you can prove that, then the schooling and education is just like a component. And we used to weed people out that way as a way to filter incoming. But, if you have a portfolio online, if you have a following, all these other attributes, that's I think more of the metric by which we assess people and will be in the future. And I mean, there's always going to be a tie back to formal education, and I'm not against it, but I think, overemphasizing the name brands, I think sometimes dilutes people's real capabilities. And so I encourage anyone, no matter where they are, it's like, if you are a self-learner, and have drive, in some sense, I think sometimes college doesn't necessarily prepare you for the specific task you're going to do. If anything, it just is a challenge to say, can you learn? Can you learn? And do you have the confidence that you can figure it out? And that confidence then will translate into anything you go into. So that's more of my perspective, I guess, on a little bit of university. And
no, I totally agree with you. What you said 100% resonates with me. I'm currently, so I make education. I do online courses. And so I'm coming out with a big online course called Data Career Jumpstart. And the whole point is it's supposed to replace the master's degree I got, but but the whole time it teaches you technical things. So it teaches you like SQL and R and Python and stuff like that. But there's a whole second half of it that's the personal brand. And that's because they should go hand in hand now. While college has just, taught you some of the technical stuff. But like you said, if you have skills and you can demonstrate them on an online portfolio, employers don't care anymore. It's like you just need some sort of proof that you can do the things that you say you can. And if you can, for instance, if you're applying for a data visualization job and you have, some sort of portfolio on Flow Immersive, like look at these data stories that I created and then told. Yeah. That's so much more powerful than a one-page diploma from University of Florida or something like that, right?
Totally, 100%. And I think that communication component is getting more and more emphasized these days, because just the ability to build a data visualization is somewhat like not anyone can do it, but the idea that that's not necessarily the hard part, but if you have the ability to communicate outwards, that's going to be super valuable, not only to yourself, but to anyone you're working for. So yeah, I think that's sort of this trend in data science or data in general. It's like moving towards data storytelling. And I think that's definitely for the better.
Well, that's where the value comes from. Like you said, the world doesn't need more data. The world needs more clearly communicated insights. That's what actually makes a difference in the business world. Okay, well, we'll get you out on this last question. Yeah. You can say whatever you want. What career advice would you give to others?
What career advice would I give to others? Think about this. So this is going to be a boring answer, but I think it's somewhat of an underlying philosophy for how I've gone about my life, is that I always think about risk reward, I guess, in terms of there's certain moments in your life where you don't have as many responsibilities and you have more appetite for risk, and to embrace that risk. But, shoot, how do I phrase this? Okay, this is not eloquently said, but I'm like sort of thinking on the fly here.
I'm excited.
I feel like too often, like right after college or sort of that time frame, there's definitely a lot of experimentation. People are trying things and you can take a lot of risk. But at the same time, if you have the ability to establish yourself at a big organization or something where you have the ability to learn more of like how the real world actually works, I do think that is extremely valuable, and then sets you up for success that you can always go back to it. And so in some sense, I've structured a lot of my life as like, I'm learning, and I'm building sort of this foundation that if my ventures and all these things that I'm trying to do all go kaput, that I sort of have a safety net. And I think that's normally not a great thing to do, or I've heard sort of mixed feelings, but I guess that's been one thing I've accepted as, that I wanted to have like at least a baseline layer and then feel comfortable taking risk and really going all in, because it's a long track. Like we've been working on this for, 4 or 5, like a long time, and it hasn't been successful, right? The joke is that, you wake up and work every day for like 3 years to then be an overnight success.
Yeah.
It's totally true, because it's a lot of, struggle, and you have to get through that. And it's not going to be a quick win. So recognize that when you take a risk, dive all in and put all your into it, but feel confident that you can spend the necessary amount of time to do it. So I know my answer was sort of all over the place there, and so maybe that's not the best advice.
No, but, I love it.
I
love it. Take risks, but have a plan B that if it fails, that you're going to survive. I like it.
Yeah, and maybe that's more just my perspective. It's more of like, I feel more comfortable taking lots of risk and for a committed period of time because I know I have some sort of like skill base and something not to fall back on, but that I can leverage. And so, take a risk, but don't just like think, oh, I'm going to start a startup and that's going to be the thing I do. Anyways.
No, I love it. Always have an escape route and drive defensively in your career. I love it. That's great. All right. Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Michael. I really appreciated talking to you. Really loved seeing more about Flow Immersive. Like I said, I'm excited. I want to try it out. Once again, a reminder to everyone to go to flowimmersive.com and click, what does it say? It says sign up for beta, something like that, right?
Yeah, I think there's like a grab an invite.
Early access. Yeah.
Early access.
Or grab an invite. Yeah.
Grab an invite.
Yep. So check it out, guys. I'd recommend it. Thank you so much, Michael. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. We'll definitely get you in on this this early private beta, and we'll love to get your feedback and see what you start building.
Yeah, man. I'm going to be the data guy too on TikTok. Okay?
I like it. I love it.
All right, man. Talk to you later. Thank you, everyone who's watching. Appreciate you guys. See you later.
All right. Bye.